All right, let's see if I remember to unmute this time. Oop, I clicked the wrong thing. There we go. There we are. All right. Welcome. Got a couple people in here right now. He-Man, he's always here. Funko Fanatic Freak, 26 months. Wow, thanks for hanging out for
Wow.
26 months. Um, Marty, what's going on? Um, so I don't know if you're following along, Priscilla, on Twitch, if you want to see the comments, but I'll try to read them out as we go and if people have questions. But just want to welcome our guest tonight, Priscilla's Arté. I know is what you go by on Instagram. I didn't want to like give out your given name in case you're not doing that. So, but we've got your Instagram up on the screen. Are we back?
I'm hopping back. Hold on, let me turn.
I think my internet just like shut down. They knew just how lit this stream was going to be, and the internet's like I can't handle it.
Yeah,
All
too
right,
much fuego.
nice.
I
All
think we're
right,
back.
I think we're back,
But
and we're
I
back
don't see the
on.
the Twitch though.
Is it not? It says we're connected. Hey,
Let
people
me
are
restart that. Okay.
there.
Okay, good.
Red Guardian, what is up, Red?
What's up? What's
Thanks
up?
for hanging out. Donner, are we back? Okay, we're back. You're back. We're back. I
Yes,
think my internet just
we're
like
all
shut
back.
off and I lost connection. We had to get back
Uh,
on. So say hey if you're there. What I was saying is, so happy to welcome Priscilla here tonight to hang out, just chat, hear a little bit about her art journey and what she's got going on. So yeah, introduce yourself to the people who don't know you.
Thank you for having me. I'm
Oh yeah.
super excited to be here. My name is Priscilla. Priscilla's Arte is just Priscilla's art with an E at the end on all social medias. And I make toys.
Hey, awesome toys. For
So,
being too humble.
yeah.
So
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I
yeah,
make toys. I tend to be very nervous on lives, so bear with me.
I hear you. It's I find that a lot of times, someone like Alex gets on or Reese was on a couple weeks ago, and those guys can just go. And I mean this in the best way. Talk to a fence post, but that is not my my strong suit. So, but I love the community aspect. I love hanging out and having people on. So I appreciate you stepping outside a little bit of your comfort zone maybe and being willing to chat. I know you do
Absolutely.
lives a lot, but for me, like I've been doing this for a couple years now, and it's not easier. It's just
No.
habit, right? It's like I do
Yeah.
it, but it's not necessarily that I'm like become some fluent speaker or eloquent speaker. But I love it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is the irony because I do a
yeah.
purple, I can never remember her handle, purple MZ24. So
Mm-hmm.
Yessie is another person in very important person in the art community, and
Mm-hmm.
her and I do chats every Sunday. So we're doing the interview, but it's still nerve-wracking, but it's a little less because it's like I'm not on the spotlight. But then I'm trying to
Right.
convince my guests, like, oh, it's gonna be fantastic, even though I got the
Absolutely.
nerves too.
Yeah, I hear you. I echo that with you. But well, so we'll lean on each other and carry on a
Yes.
conversation tonight. So, like she said, you can follow her on Instagram. I have her handle up here on the on Twitch on the screen. So if you don't follow her, definitely do, and you be in store for some awesome eye candy, some fabulous toys. I still so one of the things that always stands out to me is when you do all that checkerboard stuff. I have no idea how you do that on curved surfaces. I couldn't do that on a piece of paper. I cannot do it's so consistent and it's beautiful. And how did something like that become something you're like, I'm gonna do this around things and make a pattern and like where did that come from?
So for those that don't know, I actually have one that I'm working on right now.
Oh nice. Gosh, see? That is so cool. That's one of the Vandals pieces, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
Honestly, I don't even know where it started. I think it was um it was just trying to find I think I'm still I think I will probably forever be in the process of finding my theme, my
Mm-hmm.
style, my design, because I'm always. I'll have another one here too. I can show right quick.
Oh yeah. All those shoes. Whoa. That is
Hmm.
super cool. Is
So
that for that
for me,
upcoming show that's at was it
New York
Martian?
Comic Con.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Comic Con, yeah. That's super
yeah,
cool. Gosh, dang,
yeah.
that's
So
awesome.
it's just it's finding stuff that I like. And the funny part, actually, the checkers, like even this, for example, it's not the colors aren't as vibrant as they are in person. It's
Mm-hmm.
this really fluorescent pink.
Yeah.
And so this will be UV reactive. I actually need to test it to make sure that the black is opaque now that I said that. But
Yeah.
this theme, so I'm a licensed cosmetologist. I'm a jack of all trades in a
Oh,
sense.
cool.
And so I do hair. And when I was going to school, I remember mocking up my ideal salon, and it had
Mm.
pink and black checkerboards. So it's almost like maybe I'm revisiting themes that I've always been drawn to. I don't
Okay.
know.
Yeah, yeah. I'll just say,
Yeah.
um, Red just said, yeah, her checkerboard stuff bothers me because I just think about it and get frustrated. It is,
Yeah.
yeah, it is not a small feat to do that in general, and the fact that you're doing it on curved surfaces and the pattern connects. I mean, are you just nailing it first shot, or is there, how many runs at it do you find yourself having to take? Or have you come up with a system where you're just like, oh, I have my secret sauce now, and I just get it done.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, if we were to revisit the first batch, you can find inconsistencies where checkers turn to different geometric shapes
Nice.
in the cracks. It was like, oh, okay, that's definitely not going to be a square. And so
Mm-hmm.
I had to figure out the folds. I had to figure out, thinking of it as like a checkered blanket,
Yeah.
and how will the ripples, where would it fall? So, like, even this guy, you could
Mm-hmm.
see inside that hole, it's way back there. And then you could see the folds of his sleeves.
Yeah.
So I won't say that I've perfected it, but
You
being a
could.
perfectionist, being a perfectionist, like, look at, if we were to really dissect it, that's more of a rectangle than a square.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I mean, it's getting fairly close.
Yeah, that's
So
great. Got say hey King Gonga says hey. Nostalgia Corp. What's up, Justin? There's a call out here. This is another great one to talk about too. Is those chomps you just did? All those kind of Japanese inspired chomps, and I noticed you've been kind of adding more and more of that style in over the last year or so.
mhm.
That's another one that is very, like, I can see pieces go by on Instagram and just kind of take a guess that it's yours. And that's not to say what you're doing looks all the same, but it's very got like its flavor. You can say, oh, this looks like something Priscilla's doing. And I
Thank
think
you.
I think a lot of artists, in our scene have, their flavor, and you can kind of start to pick their pieces out. And again, not to say that it's like, oh yeah, they're just doing the same stuff. It's that you're perfecting a style and a technique, and putting it on things. um so that's another, I think, kind of ornate and detailed style, but it's very different from geometric, right?
Hmm.
So how.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
I take that as a compliment. I know
sure.
I know you're feeling like that's not a compliment, but it is. I feel like I'm always striving for my style, but I can't commit.
Mm,
So I'm like, I think this is it, and it's like, nope, we're moving this direction. So I feel like it's it's tough, but the fact that you can recognize it, that's
sure.
definitely a compliment to me because it's
Yeah.
like I that's my goal.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, that's how, definitely how it's intended, and it's very impressive. And what do you find, like, so what I was saying a second ago is just how different it is from, say, like the geometric, and how it's more fluid and organic in feel, whereas the geometric obviously is very more rigid. um,
Hmm.
do you do you have a preference, or do you mix it up maybe between those two to give yourself a break from one or the other, or how, what prompted you because that's a very different style, right? Those two different styles.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're saying you're trying to like, you're not honed in on like, this is my style and I'm always doing this,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is great, right? Because it gives you adaptability. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, those two styles being so different, you know, it's not like you're like, oh, I'm doing polka dots after doing checkers, you know, another shape. You went
Yeah.
something totally different. What drew you, or what draws you to that kind of style?
Yeah. Well, I try to learn, from every artist,
Mm,
and so I see if pop culture, for example, resonates with some artists. It's like, okay, I don't really have that background, so
mm-hmm.
I'll think about, and I think maybe this ties into where the creatives came into play.
Okay.
And I think that's really when I was like, okay, let's like you said, hone it in. Before I was kind of like, let me try mashups, let me try the, and then
Mm,
I dialed it back and I thought about what I thought of, what I cherished, what I appreciated aesthetically. And
sure.
so, like growing up, I had Lisa Frank obsessions, and
Mm,
we couldn't afford all the Lisa Frank stuff. So
sure.
it's like maybe it's popping up now in my art style
Right.
because I didn't have it. It's like, let me recreate, stuff for myself. And
Sure.
so I feel like it's it's testing out based on stuff that the things that I like and seeing how will it be received, by the community. And so the Japanese, the yakuza, the tattoo body
Mm-hmm.
art style, that was something that I didn't actually connect the dots until recently, but I was obsessed with geishas and with the whole culture, and
Mm,
I forgot about that. And so when I look for inspiration, it's also not only is it looking externally at what everybody else is doing, but it's also what do I love about my culture, about my, the things that I've been exposed to, my upbringing, and that's kind of where I'll revisit stuff.
sure.
And it feels like to me, I end up liking it more because it's something that I remember. It's something that I can connect
Mm-hmm.
with. Whereas if I try, like, I don't know, a super popular, let's say that, I mean, I grew up on The Simpsons, but let's say I didn't know anything about him and I
Yeah.
decided to explore that, I wouldn't feel the connection. So I think that's kind of where a lot of the inspiration comes from. It's a mix.
Yeah, and that's great that you say that. You know, I recently had a conversation with a collector who um, was wanting me to do a custom card from the creatives, like just a DIY card. And I was like,
Mm.
sure. And I was like, what? Tell me some things you're interested in, or what you want me to do, or and they were started going down the anime road, and I'm like, okay. I said I can try something, but I said I have no anime like. I mean, outside of like my frame of reference is I used to be really into Vampire Hunter D, but that's old school, like in the 90s. And then but all the new anime and like Naruto and One Punch and all that stuff, I'm like I have no clue. And I'm like, so I said I could try something, but it won't resonate. And that's kind of what you're saying, it's like that influence. But when I started doing barely, one of the first things I did was He-Man. And it's like that was like my childhood screaming at me like, do this, and
Yeah.
revisiting stuff that I loved. And I think you saying that, I think it comes across that there's, you're not just like, oh, this just will be a cool thing that'll sell, but it'll be something that you're inspired to do. And I've loved seeing, I could totally see in the Lisa Frank vibe in the colors you're using. um, I remember when there was some of the little pinatas you did,
Hmm.
and they were very brightly colored like that, and my wife immediately called out like, that's like very Lisa Frank, and that's my,
Oh,
my wife's, childhood. And she's just turned 40. She'll kill me for saying that. But she just turned 40, and so that was a big part of like her growing up and
hmm,
that stuff. And and seeing that it resonates with other people who had either crossed paths in some way with those pieces of inspiration or what have you. So I think it's really fun. And it kind of can draw collectors in, right?
Mhm.
and to your art and to what you do. So I know we jumped right into talking about art and toys, but you mentioned, I didn't know you were a licensed cosmetologist, so that's a
Mhm.
new bit of information for me. Um, what for those of us who might not know, I mean, like I said, we've met at a couple of shows and we've interacted online, but I wouldn't say we like know each other super well. Why don't you give us a little bit of history of like how long you've been doing this, what got you into it? I mean, how did you make the leap from cosmetology to toys? You know, 'cause you don't just customize, you have your own toys too, right? Like you
Mhm.
have created toys. I've seen you sculpt. So what kind of helped you make that leap from say that career? Um, I'm assuming you're still doing that as well. Like, is that like what you do full time in toys or
Um,
no?
yeah, so I do basically toys are my full-time night job.
That's a full time night job.
Graveyard.
Okay, I gotcha.
My day job is there's no space for creativity.
Mm,
It's office work, it's
okay.
cubicle work, it's paperwork. So
Mm,
it's like they balance each other, you know. And before the office job, I was doing hair. I'm still doing hair, but I do it more freelance. I'll do weddings, I'll do Halloween themed, events, but it's not as much. And especially after the pandemic, I
mm,
wasn't comfortable going into homes or having people come into my homes for a period of time. So it kind of like I had to redirect clients. And so
sure.
I don't do as many as before. Right now, I've got a small amount of clients that I still work with, but before before the cubicle job,
Sure.
I started hair. I want to say 17 years I've been licensed,
Okay.
and so I followed in my mother's footsteps, and very arrogantly at a young age, I thought I could do the same. You see her with the clippers. I could do that.
Yeah.
And I couldn't. I was ruining people's hair left
Oh
and
no.
right. It was so much fun because the trust was amazing.
Mm,
Like I had classmates that were like, "Yeah, give me highlights," and they would leave. I mean, luckily I didn't break off any hair. We didn't have damage, but
sure.
it was just not the color you asked for. So I started really young,
Okay.
experimenting on friends, and then it became the thing. I would do the fades, at home for free because I'm still getting the experience. And
Mm,
then I actually went and got licensed, and I think that prepped me for the toy world. I've always been into art.
okay.
Growing up, I I was a good kid, but a loud kid. I've always been very loud, and so if the class was being loud, it was my voice that you could hear. So I would always
Okay.
get in trouble. I would always get suspended. So that
Sure.
meant I was always grounded.
There
And
you
so
go.
being grounded, it's like, what do you do in your room? I'd find paper, and that's what I would do. And so over a lot of groundings, I developed my skill.
There you go.
And so, but color theory didn't really come into play
Mm-hmm.
until like both worlds met. And
Okay.
so having the art experience of doing, painting, not really understanding color, and then cosmetology, it teaches you how. So, like if somebody wants to have a certain color and it's not black or it's not platinum, there's going to be different color values in between, and you
Uh-huh.
have to counter what's going to naturally happen. And so, figuring out the way color works, it helped me figure out how to counter and how to complement and how to
Sure.
find different values that'll really work well together. So I feel like everything kind of led up to this point and just it helped me develop the way that it has.
Yeah.
Because I feel like each time I'm trying a new color, a group of colors, or it's always an experiment. It's never like, oh, I really, no, it's just like, oh, let's throw this on there. Okay, what goes good with this? Okay, let's throw this on. And it always works.
Yeah.
So,
So that's a great, a great thing to hear that it's not your experience didn't come say from art school, right? Like with you're saying with color theory, you used it in cosmetology, right?
mhm.
That's I think important for people to hear. It's there's not just one way to get here or to learn this stuff and do things. There's definitely, putting in the work, figuring stuff out, trial and error, but finding those skills you maybe have in other avenues of life and how they apply. I wouldn't have ever, just logically thought, oh yeah, cosmetology school would make sense for painting toys. But as you're explaining it and talking about the process and how you have to be reactive and learn how to adapt and go, oh, this color is going this way, I need to balance it out with this, or what have you. I think that's a very unique way to kind of get to where you are, and I appreciate hearing that. And that's been one of my favorite things about talking to the different artists is nobody's story and path is the same so far. It's super unique. Also want to, so it sounds like, you went cosmetology and you have a day job and you do full-time on the side toys, which I think is an ongoing thing. I think the fact that, like talking to Reese last week, his full-time job is toys and his side job is toys. So that's been probably the most deep in toys somebody has been so far. But hearing that it's passion, right? To keep doing this and the drive to keep going and saying, if you, like you said, your full-time night shift is this. So then I imagine you're saying no to other things, right? So that you can say yes to, sorry, my two boys are butting heads something fierce today. And so if you hear that in the background, no one's dying. They're just not happy with each other. My poor wife right now. But what was I saying? Oh, like saying yes to toys means saying no to other things, right? And at least that's been my experience. So I don't want to speak for you, but I definitely had stuff where it's like you say no to certain opportunities, so you can say yes to other ones, right? Let's see. Oh, let me say. Red just said, I think she's being humble because she throws a color down, but subconsciously having the eye is important. She's got natural colored theory. So it was a nice compliment from Angel there. Yeah. And, but, I was going to say, my mind just went blank. I read the comments and I get thrown off. But I want to encourage people.
Well, we can piggyback.
Ask questions.
Yeah, if there's any questions, for sure. And I feel like with the hair color, it made things click. It made sense of the world of color, because when, for example, if somebody has, darker hair, there's going to be every color value. When you look at the color wheel and you're going from dark to light, you have to reverse. You have to go backwards.
Sure.
And so you're learning forward and backwards. And so if somebody were to be platinum and they came in asking for dark, that's going to be a nightmare for somebody that doesn't know to put back every single color, and if you don't put back the right colors, you're going to end up off. And so I think that helps, me understand when I'm looking at how can I, make this pop more? How can I make this? And so it's like, even, for example, this guy, if we look, I don't know if we could see it close enough. Well, you can kind of see where the glare hits. You could see it's a green undertone.
Yeah.
And he's a red. And so it's like using colors that are opposite on the wheel are always going to work. And so it's like finding out the darker versus the lighter. And so it's like he's not true black, because, like, look at my shirt, he's a greener.
Yeah.
And so anytime that I'm playing around with colors, that's usually something that I will take into account. But yeah, like, I guess it is natural color because I've been doing it for so long, and I didn't realize I was doing it before I learned the cosmetology aspect of it. That's when it all clicked.
Sure.
And so having the art background going into cosmetology, it was like I knew more than what I thought I knew.
Sure.
So I guess that was kind of training for art.
Right. It's just a different. I mean, it's a different type of art, right? Even.
Yeah, it's a different medium.
Yeah. Yeah. And so doing hair and cosmetology is hair and makeup, right?
Mhm.
Like excuse my ignorance or my semi
Well, no,
informed.
it covers everything. So it covers barber. I don't think it covers razoring. Like if
Okay.
people wanted to do facial, but I could do waxing, facials, nails. But I just stuck to hair and makeup,
That's cool.
mostly formal stuff.
So in that vein, I know I've seen you do like body paint, right?
Hmm.
And some very ornate stuff that you've done. There was one that you posted a picture of. I don't know. It's been a while now, but I thought it was like a portrait, like a drawn art piece, and then I realized, wait, that's her, and that's okay. She painted herself. Like it took my brain a minute to not think it was like a piece of like
Oh, that's
painted
awesome.
art or like
Yeah.
it was a different artwork, and
Hmm.
so how often do you do things like that, or is that just like kind of special occasion I feel like this, or how much does that play into your repertoire, that kind of body paint art?
So for body paint work, sorry, hold on a second. Now my turn to deal with the kids.
Sure, absolutely, take your time. If you all have any questions for Priscilla that you want to throw in the chat, go ahead and add them there. Any questions about any of her artwork or things you might have a question about her experience in, please feel free to add that in there and spur on our conversation.
Okay, I'm back.
Cool. No worries.
I have my niece and nephews over too, and I was like, oh, how's this gonna work?
Nice. Well, I appreciate you making
So
the time.
yeah, no, not
And
a
for them allowing
problem.
us the time.
I know.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, the silence is kind of nerve wracking, but they're doing
Good.
good.
There you go.
But
Awesome.
as far as the body work,
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't done it in a while. It was a while, and so I mean, I did it since I discovered it. So I think I initially found competitions when I was in cosmetology school, and I can be very competitive, but I don't necessarily have to win. And that's the funny part because I'll push for the sake of competition.
Yeah.
And so if there's a competition and it's a group of us, I'm going to push you guys and I'm going to be like, I'm going to win. And so I'll taunt, but I don't really expect to.
Sure.
And so I turned it into a whole thing. And so I think around that period is when I really started to get into it. And my friends and I would start to do more of the competitive body art. And then it just kind of it died down. And so
Mm.
I I was inspired through the creatives to recreate my Day of the Dead Girl trading card.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had proposed another artist in the scene, and I do it together. And then it ended up the timing was just I ended up working on it and getting it out, and it was just so much fun. And so it's like, yeah, I didn't really plan on doing it, but I didn't realize how much I missed it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really exciting to be able to, because I'm trying to think chronologically if it dropped before the New York one or if it was the New York pop-up. I don't know, but it was really fun to be able to revisit that world because I hadn't done it, and I would do full head to toe. I would do
Sure.
massive hairdos. One of them was a geisha, and she was tiny. She was 4 foot, and her headpiece was like the size of a sombrero.
Oh wow.
I just did huge, massive hair, and so it was just always really fun to do the body art and
That's
to
cool.
incorporate all the looks.
It's very whimsical, and to do
Yeah.
that because that's not probably an everyday wear kind of style,
No.
but to be able to do that for an sake of an art piece is really really cool.
Yeah.
Ganga's encouraging. He said, "Is Priscilla like a Priscilla and Barely collab come to life? If not, is that a possibility?" Well, that might be something we have to
Ooh.
discuss. Now, you
Yeah.
that's one thing selfishly I want to talk about is you did a really cool Barely a while ago that kind of overlapped like when you were telling me about it, I'm like, I should tell her that I'm working on something very similar, but it was for a pin, to where you were doing a physical piece, and it was that Krang,
Mm-hmm.
barely, which was beautiful, and I loved that it
Thank you.
was, and if I remember correctly, it was removable, and he had like
Mm.
his little like side robot thing he could go into, right? His little stand,
Yeah.
and it was so fun. So wait, somebody's saying, Jason, can you turn your audio up a little bit? I can try to do that.
Okay.
Let me turn myself up. And they said Priscilla sounds great.
Okay, good.
Awesome. There, I turn it up a little bit. We got another same. Well, thanks for letting me know. And Deebles, thanks for the bits. That's very kind of you. And for resubscribing. 15 months. Much appreciated.
Wow.
Yeah. I had someone
That's awesome.
subscribe for 26 months. I'm like, have I even been doing that this long? I must have. If
Wow.
if they're able to subscribe that long, but it just doesn't feel like it's been that long, but it's awesome. And then Red Guardian said, turn down for what? Of course, you can always rely on Red to bring the humor. Yeah, but so I liked that Krang piece, and that's something I think that just reminds me in this scene that is as unique as everyone's styles are and what they do. A lot of our influences overlap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we can end up doing stuff that's very similar to somebody else. How do you find for yourself to kind of, knowing that we're all in this world of very similar inspiration, to cut your unique wedge? Like, what do you find yourself doing to try to keep it uniquely Priscilla, but also know that, like, hey, someone else likes Lisa Frank and they're going to pick colors, that just one example, but
Yeah.
or the say the Yakuza style, body suits or things. That's obviously has a lot of tradition behind that, right? And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
reference, and a lot of people get down with that. But I feel like your color palette, well, I don't want to answer for you, but a lot of your color palettes and stuff, I think, make it uniquely you. How do you find yourself kind of putting your stamp on your stuff to make sure people know, like, yeah, it's similar to this, but this is a Priscilla piece?
I feel like I would say the only real true aspect of a Priscilla piece is the eyes.
Mm,
I feel like those are always intricate when it comes to whatever it is that I'm creating. If it has eyes, it's going to be like insanely detailed.
mm-hmm.
Apart from that, I feel like it's pretty fluid. I do I do look for reference. I do first check that we don't have something already. Like you said, a lot of the ideas will overlap. And so if somebody decides to do checkers, I'm not going to get offended and be like that's my,
Yeah, yeah.
because we could definitely very well be working on the same thing. And like you said, you already had the pin going. You had the layout and the details, and this idea just popped into my head because the theme. And so
Yeah.
it's like, but at the same time, making sure that I do my research before approaching something so that
Mm-hmm.
way it's not going to be too similar. I had early on I had that lesson because I was part of a show, and it was a trio show, and it was a huge thing for me to be part of this show at Whoop Bear. There was three of us. It
Nice.
was the ladies from the show, and then somebody came to me and said, "Well, that platform looks like so and so's platform," and then it turned into a whole ordeal, and I didn't know that this was a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I was the new kid. I had no clue. And so to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not copying anybody.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a platform that I sculpted. It was a platform that somebody else created.
Mm.
So then it's like, okay, now I had to really look into things before I start to even approach a concept, and,
Yeah.
and, and I'll ask around too. That's another thing too. Have you seen this idea? And, some friends will be like, you know what, kind of,
Sure.
you know Or if I feel like it's like, let's say I wanted to create a bear, you know, I'm going to ask you, do you feel, I'll specifically ask you, and I've done that to other artists. After
Sure.
that experience,
No, yeah.
I've done that to other artists. Well, I'll say, does this feel like it's too close to barely or not?
Mm,
And you'll tell me, yeah, no. And then I can move forward with it, either scratching the idea, I've done that before, or
sure.
rolling with it. But that's part of it. Like I remember, um, you know, I had asked MPG at one point. That was one of the people that I reached out to early on because I was
Hmm.
like, I don't want anybody to ever say that this ever again. This is
Yeah.
not even remotely close. And they
Sure.
weren't. The platforms weren't close, but I could see, you know, the stance is what they were
Okay.
concerned about, and I could see what they were talking about. And so for me, you know, making sure that I'm cognizant of that, it was very important. And so with keeping that in mind, I've been able to do, you know, my twist on things without feeling like I'll encroach on anybody's territory. So like the Lisa Frank, for example, you know, I see other color values, or I'll see, you know, the gradients
Hmm.
from, you know, pinks to oranges, but I'll incorporate other colors so it's not too close to somebody else's work.
Sure.
Like, I think it's inevitable that, you know, we're working with stuff like you said, the Lisa Frank. It's inevitable that we're going to be kind of pulling from the same idea pool.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to keep it unique and take into account where others have gone, and making sure that you're not like in the same
Yeah,
realm or
for
family, I
sure.
guess.
Yeah, and I think what
Mhm.
you hit on there is having that conversation, right? Because, um, well, even you were talking about being, as you called, the new kid, right? So you were kind
Mhm.
of in your own bubble creating, right? And then all of a sudden
Mhm.
you came out of the bubble with here's some stuff, and people are like, oh, this, that, and the other. And then having those conversations, and once you are aware, you know, I've had that situation where I had done some stuff and somebody was like, oh, that's like so and so, you're ripping them off. I'm like, I don't even know who that is. And I don't mean any offense by it. I just literally am
Mhm.
ignorant of that. And so I reached out, just like you're saying, reached out and just and said, hey, I'm new to the scene. You know, came at it humbly and just said, I'm new. I was in my own hole doing this, and
Yeah.
someone's calling me out. And the artist was like, I don't see any similarity to my stuff at all. And I'm like, thank you. You know, that's, but it's, you know, just shows perspective. You know, everybody's got their own perspective on stuff, and having that
Mhm.
conversation saved me from just scrapping something I was working on, right? Which if I would have just went, oh shoot, and just thrown it away, that would have, I would have regretted that. But the fact that
Right.
this other artist is like, no, you're cool, I'm cool, you're cool, let's just go for it, um, is great. Let's see what Red's gonna drop some knowledge on us here again.
I
He
know.
says, I hate to say it, but if an artist references a pop culture character, then you really shouldn't say anything. But if you decide to take one of my own characters, then it's a problem. Absolutely,
Yeah, I
right?
agree.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think we all have the right to Bart Simpson, right? But I don't have the
Mhm.
right to say Red's clown or
Yeah.
you know, anybody's unique character. And so I think that's a good line to walk, right? You know, like pop
Yeah.
culture, we're all part of pop culture, and it's what we've experienced it. And yes, I agree. Our art
Exactly.
is our therapy.
It definitely
Yeah.
is.
So,
Yeah, and I think I forgot about how therapeutic art
oh
is.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's like naturally I'm really out there or like loud, and you know, being a Latina, I'm always very very boisterous
Okay.
and
Yeah.
just taking over, like people can hear me way down, you know. And so when I'm in the art mode, though, it's very calm, very
Mm,
zen, and so it's I need that balance. Yeah,
yeah.
and I forgot, and I think so. Doing hair and then going into the boring office life and then family life, I
Hmm.
completely forgot about art. You know,
Sure.
for a while, and it was mostly like paper crafts. Let's cut stuff. Let's glue
That's
stuff. You know,
cool.
kid stuff.
Hmm.
And then as they got older and more independent, it was like, you know what? I forgot how much I loved art
Yeah.
and
Having your hands on
revisiting it.
something. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
It's
true.
so therapeutic.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I agree with what he's saying because it's like we can be territorial over our own IPs, but
Hmm.
we don't necessarily have the rights to things that we all were kind of growing up with or exposed to, or
Sure.
I feel like that's kind of it's how do you say it? What's the phrase? I'm trying to think. It's open.
To
I
interpretation.
don't know. Yeah, open for interpretation in any which way, and we can't say, "Oh, well, that's my idea,"
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know? Yeah.
yeah. And I think that's because it is so personal. Sometimes it's it's hard to you gotta intentionally step back, right, and check. Sometimes check yourself, because I know there's stuff that I've done, um, and I'm in process, and somebody might drop something before I get mine out or mine done, and I'm like, ah, and then you get, it's like, I don't own that. I don't have any
Yeah.
reason, to say anything. And so I've had a couple things where I'm like, okay, I'll put that on the shelf for 3 or 4 months, and then I'll put it out there, because
Mm-hmm.
I know for myself, like, I was in the middle of doing this on my own, but I will
Mm-hmm.
respect someone else's space. If it's not time sensitive, it's not for a show, I'm still proud of the thing. I can set it aside for a couple of months and then bring it back out, right? Because
Yeah.
let someone else's I'll stand to the side and cheer them on for a while. Let them have their cycle with that piece of pop culture, and then
Yeah.
when the wave kind of mellows out, then I can be like, oh hey, I had something, and people didn't tie the two together. But if I would have like
Yeah.
released it the next day, they might have been, oh, so and so just did that, or do some
Yeah.
comparison. And I'm not in this to compare myself. Like, I'm here to challenge myself, but I'm not like,
Mm-hmm.
trying to compare myself to what you do, or like Red's in here and
Exactly.
Ganga, and everybody's got their spot, and there's enough room for all of us, right?
Mm-hmm. No,
Yeah.
I agree.
Uh, Go
Um,
ahead.
yeah. No, go ahead. It looked like paragraphs on the chat.
Oh, yeah. I saw Smitty noticed said, I love that Priscilla does this, as I have seen questionable designs that look like ones from artists I follow, and some are straight up cheap imitations. So I respect P for trying to ensure that she doesn't. Yeah, absolutely. I think he's referencing, the conversations you talked about having, making sure that, you're being as above board as you can. And Red is in agreement, and Ganga's calling for a touchdown. So, so
You saying I agree?
yes, totally. Nailed it.
Sorry, I just realized that the sun's flashing.
Oh, it's okay. If that's not you, I thought it was just your
Yeah, it's
personality
not me.
just shining in.
I'm
Um,
gonna stand here.
so I know we've got about
um,
15 minutes left in our hour, and I definitely want to hear if you have any upcoming shows you're participating in. I know you showed off that piece for that New York show. Anything you want to tease, any of your toys, um, anything you have coming up that you want people to be aware of or keep an eye out for. And if you want to keep it all
so
secret, that's fine too. That's your
I
prerogative.
know, right? I'm terrible with secrets, you guys. I always give them away. I am currently working on a few Halloween drops, and I was
Nice.
so excited when I saw your barely with a pumpkin in the front,
Oh,
because
nice.
I have a pinup with a pumpkin in the front,
Oh,
but
so cool.
yeah, it's not the same at all. But I can't reach her, and it looks amazing. She's gonna. Oh, there I go. Let me see if I can close these really quick.
That sun is messing with us.
Yeah, it really is. At least to that point. Okay.
Hey, there you go.
Oh, that was bugging me. Sorry, guys. I don't know how long that was happening. I didn't notice it. So for upcoming drops, I've got the New York Comic Con. I've got we've got Designer
Gosh,
Con. I don't have
less than 2 months
yeah.
away.
So right on schedule. I have zero ready for it.
Yeah, I hear you. I've got stuff ready that I need to paint, but I haven't even started. And I'm like, why am I not starting this?
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Mm.
Uh,
So the checkered one that I showed is for an Isle of Misfits show.
oh, nice.
The the Great Brain. These guys
Yeah,
are going to be my own
macaroni.
drop, but I think
I
yes,
love that.
macaroni's so
I
cute.
love that figure
Um,
just in general, and when people
yes.
interpret it, it's so fun to see.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely love it. And so I was working on what's the cat's name?
Which
On
the oh no, I don't
is
remember.
she on? She's oh, this isn't. Yeah.
I can't remember that character's name. I always remember
Isn't it?
macaroni.
I wanna say onigiri, but
It might be.
I don't know. Might be right.
Yeah.
Macaroni and onigiri, but those are my own drop. But I might hold off until after decon.
Okay.
So I've got decon prep to do. I've got creatives con prep to do, and then my drops in between that. I've got the New York Comic Con show, the Isle of Misfits for the Vandal. I'm trying to think of everything. I've got a Wuji Toys show with Isle of Misfits as well. I'm gonna have 3 pieces. I'm super excited for those. The platform is so fun. I don't have it nearby, but
No, that's cool.
yeah. So it's like a lot of random things here and there, all over.
Nice. And you're doing the banana
Yeah.
cap show too, you said, right?
The which one?
The banana skinny cap?
Yes.
Alex
Oh my
is
gosh. See, there you go. That's another one.
Yeah.
That's going to be a collab piece. Can we see that guy again? Oh my
Mine?
gosh. Do you have him close? Yes. This thing is
Oh.
a monster.
This
Look at
weekend
this.
I'm
It's a beast.
supposed to paint this weekend so I can get it done in time. There's mine.
Look at that. Oh my gosh. Insane.
So that's fun. It was fun to do. I'm finally figuring out. I've had my 3D printer for a while, but finally really figuring out how to like measure something in the real world and then print it out, print out pieces that will actually attach to it well. And I was so stoked this time I didn't have to like reprint. Everything was first try, fit on it. And I'm like, hey, I did it right.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hey, look, Ma, I made it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. So that's going to be a really fun piece.
Oh my gosh. And how many hours did it take to print?
To print, so the size of my printer, I did three of the big legs at a time. So this was 8 hours. Then these 3 legs were 8 hours. And
oh my gosh.
these 2 legs and the mouth together was about 4 hours. So 20 hours total print time.
Wow.
And then I made this little paper that I oh god, this is where the legs kind of line up, so I laid set the cap on it and then marked off where where it needed to be, and then drew my lines and drilled holes through it, and like because each one of those legs has a post on it, so I could drill through, put the post in, so it had more than just surface area sticking to it. So yeah, that was a fun process to try to figure out, because up to this point, even when I did that piece for Bean's show with the hamburgers, I thought that was like a standalone piece that I just put the burger Dan in, so I didn't have to like attach it.
Yeah.
This was actually the first time I was really printing stuff and attaching. I guess I did a little bit of that in the Ninjito show where I put horns on the mask, but this was like a whole nother set of things to do. But anyway, cool.
Yeah, your digital game. That's amazing. And just see, it's so inspiring to see you how you were doing the dailies.
Yeah, that was
and showing.
I want to do it more, because that was so much growth by doing it at least an hour a day every day. Like I went from never sculpting to feeling good sculpting in 90 days. That was like, I did it every day for at least an hour for 90 days straight. And it's like building that repetition in those muscles. And it was kind of like you were saying earlier, it's therapeutic, and then something happened. I think we went on a trip or something. When I came home, I just got out of the habit. And I'm like, why? Now it's been a little over a year since I quit doing that on a daily basis, and I'm like, want to get back into it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Decon. Are you sharing a booth this year, or do you have your own?
I'll be a part of Martians again.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was
So
cool.
I'm gonna be, and I think I don't remember. Actually, I don't remember. I was trying to think of how many artists who they were supposed to have because I think they're gonna have more. I think last time it was them on one side and then three of us on the other.
Yeah, because you and uh oh, who else was there?
And Gory and Red.
Red. That's right. I remember now. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Angel was on the end, and then Gory was on the other end, and you were kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
That's right. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw that email came out today. It was in my junk folder. If another artist didn't reach out about it, I would not have seen it. So if you haven't seen the email, or maybe because you're at Martian's booth, maybe you're not. You have to rely on them to get information. But
Mm-hmm.
they let out like a preliminary booth layout, and I'm like way over off on the side, away from like I was hoping to be with, more of the toy artists. So I'm gonna reach out and say, can I get moved over by, there's like this group of all these people that I'm like, oh, I'd be by any of those people would be great, but I'm all the way on the other side of the arena, and I'm over by like Metacom and stuff like that. So there will be a lot of foot traffic, but I'm like, I want to be by my people. Like I want to be with all the
Yeah.
other toy artists, So I'm like, my wife's like, well, if it's a lot of foot traffic, isn't that worth it? I'm like, kind of, but no. I'd rather, it's the experience and the people, right? And the, wanting to. It's like that one time a year. Decon's really the only con I really am able to get away to, or historically have been able to. So it's like, this is when I get to see all the people that I love in this toy community, the collectors, the other
Yes.
artists. So I'm like, I'd give up some of that foot traffic to be with all the people, But
Yeah.
so
No, I agree with you. And last year you had that corner, which was so sweet. It was so awesome. Like
the
all right there.
yeah,
Yeah.
that happened by chance because I was supposed to share with Ghost Fox, and at the last minute they weren't able to come out, so I ended up with that corner, and it was so fun to have that corner booth that I just kept putting money away so that when they came available, I got a corner again this year, and yeah, it's just fun. And there's
Yeah.
my little trick that I accidentally did was, instead of having a 90-degree table where I was having to look at both sides, I just cut an angle, and it pulled people into the booth because they were walking and cutting the corner. But when they cut the corner, they were like walking into my booth and then talking to me. And so I'm like,
That's
I'm going to do
awesome.
that again. Kind of cheated
Yeah.
a little bit, but
Yeah.
oh, thanks, Red. Red said he'd give up everything to be with me too. So
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
we'll have to hug it out. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone at DCon, and there are even more artists this year who haven't been, who've reached out and said they're going. People who were at uh, to artist tables, and they're moving to booths, and it's so fun to see that growth. And that's the same path I did, where I the first year I was there as an artist, it was at an artist table. I'm like, I don't, I want to put my foot in the water and try this,
Mhm.
and then the next year I got a booth, and I'm like, I'm going to just keep doing this as long as I can. It's so much fun, and it's such a
Yeah.
great convention for people to come to, and so much. I tell all my artist friends, collector friends, I'm like, if you've never been, go. The tickets are
Yeah.
so cheap to just go and spend the weekend there, and your brain will explode from all the creativity stuff you didn't know you needed to have in your home. You will find,
Yeah.
and I think we all push and encourage each other to push our art too, right? And
Hmm.
some of the most mind-blowing pieces. Like last year they had was it Scott Tolson has those dragons, those imperial
Oh my
dragons,
gosh.
and then they did that
Yes.
show. I'm like, these are never going to get any
Yes.
better. And then they did the show, and
Mhm.
I'm like, are you
Yeah.
kidding me? And it just shows that I think that shows that as artists we're better together, right? When we can
Hmm.
push and inspire each other. And it goes back to what you're saying about, cheering people on and having conversations, and knowing that we're going to cross inspiration. So why not um, push that along, right? Like, don't make someone necessarily have to go. I mean, sure, buy our platforms, do that. That's great. But also, like, I fully believe in like sending pieces out to artists and going, just paint this and sell it, just like I want to see what you do with my platform, right? That's what I just got a bunch of my kaiju vinyls in, and I had them do a bunch of blanks that I'm gonna send out. I didn't want to like pressure people and be like before decon, so probably after decon I'm gonna send out, just to people whose art I love and respect. You're on that list, and saying, what would you do with this, and sell it on your site or whatever. Don't not to give back to me, but it in a weird way it encourages me and pushes me on too, right? To see how people do that. So anyway, well, I know we got about 3 minutes left in our time. That last half hour went by real quick. What should people know that they don't know? How can they find you if they are ridiculously not following you already? I know you already said your Instagram name once. It's up on the screen. People can see it. But website, I know you mentioned your shows you have up and coming. Is Instagram the best way to keep aware of what you're doing?
Yeah, for the most part. I think my Facebook and Instagram are kind of mirrored. So either or, you can find me in the same place, priscillasarte.com as well. I think they're hitting their max.
Yeah. See, an hour's like the perfect time. Just enough.
Yeah. So priscillasarte.com is where most of my drops will be. But yeah, I think you're right. I think Instagram. I'm on TikTok. TikTok, you'll see more of the silly stuff. Okay. So
awesome.
A little bit of toy, a little bit of silly. But it's a mix. But yeah, I think Instagram probably. And there you can. I always respond if there's any questions or. Yeah.
Great.
I think that's the best.
And then on Sundays, you and Purple do a kind of an art interview kind of show, right? Like a brunch, Sunday brunch kind of vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so make sure, but that streams from your Instagram, correct?
Yes, so we do an Instagram live every Sunday. It is a bit early for us West Coasters. It's 8 a.m., but it's 11 Eastern Standard Time as well. And so our goal is to kind of meet with designer toy female artists of the scene. And so we've had amazing guests, and you can see the history. How do you say it? The older videos or the archives, I guess, under the Reels tab.
Okay.
But we've had Kendra on, we've had Ghost Fox, we've had a lot of the females in the scene that are just amazing, inspirational, and just cool women.
Yeah,
so this really week actually.
Artists,
Right? Yeah, we had Fluff Riot, we had Arctic Fox. We've had so many amazing women, and hearing their stories, it's always inspiring to see. It's like, okay, you can do it. You can push yourself. Just keep going at it, and so it's always nice to hear their stories. And so this weekend, actually, we're meeting with Owlberry Lane, Heather.
Oh, Heather, Heather Hyatt.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yes,
she's
so I'm
talented.
super excited. I know.
Yeah. Make sure to ask her about her stone, like, 'cause a lot of it's like stone,
hydrostone.
Like, yeah, and I'm so curious about that.
I know.
And then she does.
And I
it so
have
well.
one.
Oh, awesome.
Yes, and it's just the weight. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah. And I say that to ask her. I say it selfishly because I want to listen in and hear her talk about it.
Yeah. No, that's you. I'm glad that you brought that up because I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, she was so.
That's her primary casting.
Yeah.
Material, right?
Yeah, it seems like it, at least in the recent past. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Priscilla, I know we're at our hour now. I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on, and thank your niece and nephew for their patience. And again, everybody who came and hung out, thanks for hanging out with us. If you don't follow Priscilla, you're missing out. Please do. I know a lot of you names I see in here follow her and seem very familiar with her work. So support her art. Keep an eye out for all these shows. You are just you work and work and work and work and do so much stuff. And I'm inspired by your work and the quality of the quantity that you do, because it would be really easy to phone it in, and I don't feel like you ever do. So it's beautiful work. And thanks again for hanging out. And thanks to all of you for coming and hanging out with us again. And I'll see you all next week. I love you all. Take care of yourselves and make sure to find time to rest. Again, Priscilla, thanks so much. And we'll see you all next time.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Welcome back anytime.